It started like any other Tuesday night. I had just signed up for a membership at Iron Pulse Fitness in Raleigh, North Carolina. It wasn't one of those flashy chain gyms. This place was 24/7, affordable, and never too crowded. Perfect for someone like me who preferred lifting late in the evening, away from the post-work rush. I arrived around 10:45 p.m. The place was mostly empty except for the night staff and 2 other people in the wait section. I greeted Aaron at the front desk, scanned my key card, and headed straight to the locker room. I put my phone, keys, and wallet in locker 42, twisted the combo lock shut, and headed out for my workout. It was chest day. I was about halfway through my dumbbell presses when I noticed the older guy from earlier leaving. The other guy, younger, maybe early 20s, was blasting music through wired headphones and grunting through every lift. About an hour in, I took a break to refill my water bottle. I noticed the locker room light was off. Motion sensor, I figured. But the second I stepped in, I got a whiff of something strange. Not the usual sweat and soap mix. It smelled off, like cologne mixed with something sour. The light clicked on, revealing an empty space. I brushed it off and went back to finish up with cardio. Around 12:30 a.m., I was done. The gym was completely silent now. Even the guy with the wired headphones had left. Only the night janitor and Aaron remained. I made my way to the locker room again, but when I opened locker 42, it was empty. My stomach dropped. No phone, no keys, no wallet. I stood there in disbelief, staring at the inside of the locker like it would magically fill up if I waited long enough. My combo lock was gone, replaced by a different lock entirely. Someone had swapped mine out. My first thought was that I was losing my mind. Had I put my stuff in the wrong locker? I checked every locker around it. Nothing. I ran to the front desk, trying to stay calm. "Aaron," I said, "someone just stole my stuff from the locker room." He blinked, confused. "You sure?" I nodded. "Locker 42. Everything's gone." And someone replaced the lock. He stood up immediately and walked around to the back computer. "Let me check the footage." As he rewound through the security feed, I leaned over the counter, heart pounding. "There," he said. "That's you, going in at 10:48. He fast-forwarded. Another person entered at 11:22. A tall man in a gray hoodie, black joggers, face hidden by the hood and a mask. He carried a gym bag, casually walked in, and, clear as day, stopped at locker 42. "Wait," I said. "Did he use a bolt cutter?" "No," Aaron murmured, leaning closer. He entered a code. Sure enough, the guy turned the dial confidently and popped the lock open. That wasn't a coincidence. He knew the combo, I muttered. We watched as he pulled out my stuff, placed it into his bag, and then, bizarrely, placed a different lock on the now empty locker. He left 5 minutes later, walking right past Aaron, who hadn't noticed anything unusual at the time. "Dude, what the hell?" Aaron whispered. "You don't recognize him?" I shook my head. "Never seen him before." "I'll call the manager in the morning," he said, "and we'll report it to the police. You should file a report, too." I used the gym's phone to call an Uber, since I had no phone or keys. When I got home, I had to bang on the door to wake my roommate. We spent the next hour trying to track my phone via Find My iPhone, but it had already been powered off. I went to the police station the next morning. I gave them everything: footage, timestamps, description. They took the report, but it was clear I wasn't going to get my stuff back. But that wasn't the end. The next evening, around 9 p.m., Aaron texted me using the number I'd given him on the police report. "Hey dude, that guy came back?" I dropped everything and drove straight to the gym. Aaron showed me the footage. Hoodie guy entered again around 8:45 p.m. this time. Same clothes, same walk. But this time, he didn't even bother with the machines. He went straight to the locker room. I looked at Aaron. Did he take anything? I don't know yet, he said. I was about to check. We both walked quickly to the locker room. There were only 2 people in the gym that evening, a girl doing squats and a middle-aged guy on the treadmill. When we entered the locker room, it was empty. But locker 27 had a lock cut clean off, lying on the bench nearby. We stared at it. Cameras, I asked. Yeah, let's go. Back at the front desk, Aaron rewound the footage. This time, we saw the man pull bolt cutters from his gym bag. He was done in under 30 seconds. I'm calling the cops, Aaron said, grabbing the phone. I stared at the screen. Wait, pause it. Go back 10 seconds. Aaron rewound. Right there. Zoom in on his bag. He did. And we both saw it. A small, white Apple sticker. The kind you get with every Apple product. I had one on my phone case, I muttered. That's mine. He was using my bag now. The cops arrived, took another report, and began an investigation. They reviewed all the footage the gym had, including the parking lot cameras. Finally, they caught a plate number. His car was a 2011 Nissan Maxima, registered to a rental company in a neighboring county. The thief was using rentals to stay untraceable. 2 days later, the police called me. They'd found the car, abandoned. Inside were 2 gym bags, 6 stolen phones, 4 wallets, and a set of lock-picking tools. Mine was there, wiped clean. My credit cards had already been drained. Over $2,000 was spent on electronics and prepaid gift cards within a few hours of the theft. But that wasn't even the worst part. When police pulled data from the phones, they discovered folders filled with pictures, not of objects, but of people. Men in locker rooms, some mid-change, some unaware they were being watched. Some were candid. Some weren't. There were hundreds. The man, it turned out, wasn't just a thief. He was a predator, targeting late-night gym-goers, stealing from them, and sometimes following them home. Surveillance photos showed him outside a victim's house 2 days after a theft, including mine. There was a blurry photo of my building taken at night, zoomed in on my window. I didn't sleep for days after that. Eventually, the cops got a lead. The man's fingerprints matched those from a prior arrest in South Carolina. His name was Edgar Broom. He had a history of theft, voyeurism, and impersonation. But he vanished again before he could be caught. To this day, I check every locker twice, use a lock with a fingerprint scanner, and never, ever work out alone late at night. I still go to the gym, but not Iron Pulse, not after that. My name is Logan, and I was 23 when this happened, barely a year into living in Philadelphia. I had just landed a new job working late shifts at a small tech firm downtown. The hours were brutal, but the pay was good, and I needed every cent to cover my student loans and rent. Most nights, I took the Broad Street line back home. My apartment was near Jefferson Heights Station, which wasn't exactly the best neighborhood, but it was what I could afford. I never had a problem riding the subway late, until one night changed that completely. It was a Thursday, around 1:15 a.m., and I was dead tired. I walked into the Spring Garden station, which was almost completely empty. The usual hum of fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and I could hear the echo of my footsteps bounce off the tiled walls. The only other person I noticed was a janitor off in the distance, slowly mopping the far end of the platform. I took a seat on one of the old metal benches and pulled out my phone to check the train schedule. According to the app, the next train wouldn't arrive for another 12 minutes. I sighed and leaned back against the wall, trying not to nod off. About 5 minutes later, I noticed a man walking down the stairs from the street-level entrance. Something about him instantly made me uncomfortable. He was tall and thin, wearing a gray hoodie pulled tight around his face. His hands were buried deep in the front pocket. He didn't seem drunk or high. His steps were too deliberate. but there was a tension in his posture that put me on edge. He didn't sit down. Instead, he started pacing slowly along the edge of the platform, looking down at the tracks. At one point, he glanced up and caught me watching him. I looked away quickly, pretending to scroll on my phone. I tried to ignore the unease crawling up my spine, telling myself it was just nerves, or maybe the long work hours messing with my head. But when I looked up again, I saw something that sent a chill through me. He was standing completely still, just a few feet from me, staring. He hadn't made a sound approaching me. "Got the time?" he asked. His voice was raspy and low. I hesitated. It's 1:21, I said, showing him my phone screen. I kept my tone casual, trying not to sound nervous. He nodded slowly but didn't move away. "Late for something?" I asked, more to fill the silence than anything. "No," he replied. "Just watching." I forced a tight smile and went back to pretending I was occupied with my phone. My heart was pounding now. The guy stepped back and resumed his pacing, but every few seconds, he'd glance in my direction. The janitor had vanished, and the station was otherwise deserted. 2 minutes before the train was scheduled to arrive, I heard something behind me. Another set of footsteps coming from the same entrance. I turned and saw a second man walking down the stairs. This one looked younger, stockier, wearing a black jacket and carrying a duffel bag. He didn't look at me or the pacing man. He walked straight to the far end of the platform and leaned against the wall, facing away. I didn't like this. Something about it felt wrong. The train lights finally appeared in the tunnel. I stood up, hoping this would all end the moment I got on. But just before the train pulled in, the man in the hoodie suddenly stepped directly in front of me, blocking my path to the platform edge. "You got a phone charger?" he asked. "No, man," I said, trying to sidestep him. "Sorry." He didn't move. "How about cash?" I froze. "What?" He leaned closer. "Your wallet. Let's see it." That's when I saw it. He had a box cutter in his right hand, just barely sticking out from his hoodie sleeve. "Don't make this harder than it has to be," he said calmly, like he'd rehearsed the line. The train screeched to a halt behind him, doors sliding open. No one stepped out. I looked toward the other man, the one with the duffel bag, and he was watching now. He wasn't part of this. I could tell by his face. He looked surprised, maybe even scared. In that moment, I made a choice. I yelled, "Hey!" as loud as I could, trying to draw attention. The man with the box cutter lunged, trying to grab my jacket. I shoved him hard in the chest, knocking him backward into the bench. The sudden movement must have startled him, because he didn't pursue me as I ran straight into the first car of the train. The doors closed behind me, and I hit the emergency intercom, telling the conductor what had happened. The guy with the box cutter was still outside, standing there with the same blank expression. The conductor called for police assistance immediately and told me to stay on until the next stop, where officers would meet us. As the train began moving, I looked out the window. The guy was walking toward the other man with the duffel bag. They weren't talking, just standing there. It wasn't until the train turned the corner that I lost sight of them. At the next station, 2 transit officers were waiting. I gave them a full description of what happened. They took my information, checked the surveillance footage, and said they'd patrol the area more thoroughly that night. I never heard any updates. I never saw that man again. But for weeks afterward, I kept having dreams about him. His pale face, the box cutter, the quiet menace in his voice. That night was a turning point. I stopped using the Jefferson Heights station altogether. I started taking the bus or getting rides home. The subway never felt the same to me again. Before we dive into the next story, if you're here for the first time, please consider subscribing to our channel and clicking the bell icon so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories. Your support truly encourages us and helps this channel continue to grow. And don't forget to share these stories with your friends and family. Thank you.